So I've known this fellow, Phil Snyder, for 61 years now, and I can vouch for him. So if you're in a position to help with at least an email or a prayer, why don't you let me know? And if you want to get a hold of him personally, you just heard his email address. It's glow, GLOW _USA at yahoo.com. No telling when the next time we'll run into him is. I don't see him very often at all because we live so far apart, but once in a while, here he comes. I appreciate you listening or watching this video, and certainly you can contact me if you'd like to learn more information. I'm at veroyahad, VEROYAHAD @gmail.com. Again, thank you for listening. But I suppose it will have to do.
I just walk around
That's
like
good.
this.
You're being recorded right now.
Yeah.
Greetings and welcome to the show. This is Jackson Snyder, and you're listening to Jackson Snyder Presents. This is my brother Phil making the faces, and he is a longtime worker with rural schools in Haiti. And you've heard some of his stories before on this program. And if you haven't, go to jspresents.org and listen to them. They're very encouraging and also hair-raising at times. But Phil has got a new project going, and we want to listen to him and see what we can do to try to help. Phil, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, after experiencing about every type of ministry you can imagine in Haiti, from taking care of orphans to supporting widows and loan programs, feeding programs, nutrition clinics, clothes distributions, community gatherings, we've done everything. I've always wanted to find the most expedient way to do what I feel the Bible calls us to do, being concerned for widows and orphans and those in most need. I've basically narrowed down my focus and vision to rural Haitian schools. And when I say rural Haitian schools, I mean schools that are really out there deep in the boonies. We have a almost 600 square mile footprint in Haiti, where we're working with pastors and have worked with them for almost 30 years, some of them even 40 years, networking and helping to support their schools, helping them in times of disaster. But now we're changing from trying to reach into every need that comes along and all the things that most people are touching on, and just focus our resources on rural schools, feeding programs, paying teachers for a consistent school system where the teachers don't have to leave because they're not getting paid. We try to provide work programs, maintaining those nasty four-wheel drive roads. And last but not least, we try to work on potable water projects. So feeding children in school, getting kids in school, feeding them every day, paying teachers, doing work to help provide employment for the community, and water projects. Now, I find that by doing that, that alone covers everybody on the spectrum of the big picture needs. I mean, these kids come in, they eat a meal in school every day. There might be 2 or 3 kids from a single family, and chances are 60-70% of the women out there, the mothers, are single mothers, either abandoned or they're widowed. Feeding those kids relieves food insecurity in the homes. This is a great benefit to them. Paying those teachers brings money into those rural economies every month. That lifts up the whole spirit of the community. Providing work programs, you know, even if we only pay minimum wage, which is $1.50, $2 a day, these people are overwhelmed and so joyful to come together we'll usually hire a lady for every crew to cook them lunch, and they'll work on the weekends when they're not in their fields, and they're just having such a great time because they're going to make a little money, but also they're doing something that's improving the community. And then last but not least, when we help provide water, anything we can do to help provide potable water, because in these rural areas, water is always an issue. People have to walk miles and miles and miles to get it every day. Their whole lives revolve around water. So I'm narrowing my focus into just putting our resources into rural schools and communities. And that way I feel a lot better about what we're doing. I feel a lot more concentrated and more empowering towards the people. And this is a new thing that we're just launching right now. And in fact, we started it, we've got our licensing as of February 2018. And so this is what we're moving on with now.
So what's the name of the organization now, and how can we get in touch with you?
The name of the organization is Haiti Rural Education Fund Incorporated. Our address is P.O. Box 331, Utica, Ohio, 43080.
Okay. Don't you find that with the rural government schools and their utility programs, competition, or do you have a problem with the government schools out there?
No, there's really no competition. Back in the rural areas, in fact, most rural areas, it's fortunate, very fortunate, if 10% of the student body population has an opportunity to go to school. In fact, that's one of the greatest things about it, is that education is the key to the future for any country. And in rural areas in Haiti, where only maybe 10% of the children have an opportunity to go to school, I feel it's a great thing to support church schools. And let me, I didn't mention that, but all our schools are basically church schools run by pastors and by the elders and the staff of the churches. So no, there's no competition. The government is thrilled that we're helping, and we bring these children up through school almost like discipleship programs, and our teachers are more mentors than they are there for the job. They have a great desire to see things improve in Haiti. And to be honest with you, working in Haiti for 40 years, this is one of the programs I see, not only our programs, school programs, but throughout Haiti, those different organizations and NGOs working in education. I see it as one of the biggest investments in progress in Haiti, because now we see children from the last 50, 60 years who are second and now coming into third generation, finding jobs. Everything that happens, the communities are raised up just through education, just through people who know basically how to read, write, do math, all these things.
You seem to imply that there are no government schools or water projects out in these rural areas. Is that the case, that it's wide open?
Well, unfortunately, we're talking about Haiti, and there is no government infrastructure in rural areas to speak of. There's the drop in the ocean here and there where somebody might be coming and doing something on behalf of the government, but far and few between. There are very few government schools, and like I said, in rural areas, less than 10% of the children, well, there's fewer, not enough schools to even look after 10% of the children. It's government help in Haiti is non-existent, basically. And this might be changing now. I mean, we just became a democracy in 1991, and it's been struggling significantly since then. And only in the last few terms of government have there been stable presidents. So there is some outlook for hope in the future, but historically, there's been very little help at all in rural areas of Haiti and for any kind of social, economic problems or programs for the people.
What our sources for water right now for these rural people. They have the same hopes and dreams as we do, yet the facilities are so sparse that a lot of times hopes and dreams for children especially are shattered. Where do they get water?
Well, Jack, this is one of those things that is very disappointing and saddening to see the water situation, because water is the root of life, even before food. I mean, air comes first, but water comes second. You have to have water to live. There are some areas of rural Haiti that have rivers. Most are polluted from use, feeding and watering livestock, washing clothes, washing everything in them. But for the most part, I would say 75% of rural Haiti, and remember, Haiti is a mountainous country. 75% of these people have to trek up and down the mountains, down little winding trails to various scattered streams. For instance, in one of our school areas, Font Baptiste, there's a stream there, or a spring there, where everybody goes to get their water. Everybody. And it's the only spring within 8 or 9 miles. And these people walk 2 or 3 miles down, down, down into the valley, and then walk back up with gallon jugs, or the stronger people can carry 5 gallons of water. But that's the water that they have to use for the day. Their whole lives revolve around seeking water. The only other option is roof catchment systems, which some people have, but it doesn't always rain. And this is a real problem for Haiti, especially the rural areas where there is no water. There's no trucks going up and down the road delivering water. There's no bottled water being delivered. People have to go after it. The different problems that are associated with lack of water, dehydration is the first. Water is so scarce. People are only going to drink a bare minimum of it. So you'll go up in an area like that, and if you take a good look at the people, you operate a clinic or something, you'll notice that the majority of them are dehydrated. You'll start to, in a clinic situation, you'll start to look at the different sicknesses among the people, and you'll find out that the vast majority of them are, how do you say, they are on or made worse by the lack of water. I'm sure there's a word.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't.
So you're saying their common diseases are exacerbated because they don't have, how about that? Because they don't have the water they need. My experience is very limited in Haiti, but I did go to a village one time, and I saw their source of water, which was an open pit that had water down probably 20, 30 feet down. And on top of that water was floating all kinds of stuff. And the way they got the water was, of course, to throw a bucket down there and pull it up. I would think that there would be a real problem with dysentery or parasites using that kind of water. And I thought, well, what if I needed some water right here and now? Would I be able to get it out of that open pit and drink it myself? And what would happen?
Chances are you wouldn't want to drink that water without either filtering it or somehow boiling it, and making sure you got rid of all the junk in it. That is seriously a big problem too. So many children die from dysentery, diarrhea. And, another thing along the line of lack of water is sanitation as well. Can't imagine how much disease is spread. Sickness and disease is spread just through lack of sanitation, simple washing of the hands. So many children are infested with worms. Why is that? Because they never wash their hands. They just can't afford the water for it.
Well, how about, I know last time we talked, we were speaking of a moringa project where these moringa seeds could be used in some manner to purify water. Has that caught on at all among the people there?
It has not caught on because it's something that is new and people just don't do things their fathers and mothers didn't do or their grandparents didn't do. I'm pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. There's two problems with the moringa. First, if every family had 3 or 4 or 5 moringa trees somewhere available to them, there would never be malnutrition in Haiti again, and they would never have any problem purifying water. But this is such a hard thing to try to teach people because they're living for today. They're hungry today. The whole mentality there is for right now. What is going to serve us right now? They can't quite think about trying to plant 4, 5, 6 trees and take care of them for 6 months until they start flowering and getting big enough to harvest. It's just not in the mentality. Now, I will say this. I believe it's starting to catch on, but it's one of those things like trying to build a fire with wet wood. We just keep fanning it, lighting it and fanning it, lighting it and fanning it. One day it'll take off because the moringa tree, especially the Moringa stenopetala from Ethiopia, is a fantastic tree, and it has so many attributes. They call it the miracle tree. I'm still pushing it, Jackson, but it hasn't been taking off yet. It's still a battle to get that out there.
Well, can we grow those trees in our country? If so, where?
Oh, chances are you don't want to mess with it here because any time the temperature dips under, say, 58 degrees, that tree is threatened. And it grows in Saharan type environments. It doesn't like water. It likes dry heat. It's a taproot. It seeks its own water. So there might be some experimenting with it in pots inside the house, something like that. But to try to grow one outside, the first time you have a freeze, you lose it.
Yeah. You said you've been there for 40 years. Have you in those years gained favor with the people there so that you're welcomed when they see you, or are they hostile to you as a foreigner?
Well, I feel like I am one of them. I can't think of anybody who has treated me hostile outside of maybe bandits and folks like that. People where I go and in the villages, and I'm usually going in a parade of VIPs as far as rural pastors and this and that. I'm very well received. I've earned a great reputation to be a guy that deals fairly, speaks honestly, sticks to his word, and helps with whatever we can help with, is according to our resources. So I'd say that I have a pretty good reputation with the Haitian people.
Well, in 2005, you had an incident with some bandits that we have talked about before in interviews, and it was such a horrendous thing that happened to you. I'm surprised that you ever decided to go back there. Do you feel some resentment? Now it's been 13 years later. You feel resentment about that or fear of that happening again? Or how do you feel about that now?
Well, you don't go through something like that without some kind of residual pain, fear, all the above. As far as how I feel about it today, any resentments, I do have to struggle with resentment because at the end of the day, it wasn't just about the incident, the kidnapping. There was a lot of collateral damage that came out of that for me and the ministry that I was running then, for my family. We've all suffered from the results of that. But at the end of the day, I have to believe that in God's economy, we are his servants, and I'm in a dangerous place. I look back at the results of what happened on the ground afterwards, after the ransom sort of story, and I'm amazed because I see more and more and more the value in the fact that it was me that was taken and me that went down in there, and the way I handled it and the way things turned out after the ransom. So, yes, I've been hurt, but more than anything else, I'm trying to just come to the realization that I was there as a volunteer. My eyes were wide open. I knew things like this would happen, and I was willing for them to happen for the gospel. And they did. Some bad things fell in, but we move forward, we keep going, and we wait for Father to bring beauty out of the ashes again.
Well, I think that most people in an interview like this would be emphasizing the bad things that happened to them. And you hadn't even brought it up. I brought it up. Are you able to tell this story when you go speak various places? And are you even available to go and speak to groups or to churches or whatever?
Well, I kind of have a feeling that story gets a little bit too much attention. I mean, it was something that's very unique. It's like a lightning strike, and there is some great um, storytelling there as
Yeah.
far as having experienced that and being able to tell it firsthand. Um, I don't like to focus on that specifically when I'm asked to speak somewhere. I mean, I can touch on it, but the whole picture of the 40 years, I mean, that was one incident, but there's so many more that make up the character of where we are now and where we hope to go in the future. And I love to come out and speak places. I love to share our vision. I love to meet people. I love to go places. So I'm always available and share what I feel is on my heart for whatever body I'm addressing at the time.
So, where do you live?
I live in Haiti full time. I'm in Michigan right now for a little 10-day vacation, but I live in Haiti full time and I've been there more than half of my adult life since I was 21 years old. I've lived there more than half of the last 40 years.
Well, we understand from some that have come back to tell about Haiti that it's extremely primitive still, even though I think that they've made a huge amount of progress since the first time I went down there. Do you actually live in a village or the same kind of housing that generally the Haitian rural people live in? What's that like?
Well, we've been blessed in that we've had a property in the family since 1981, and it's above middle class house. We have our own well, we have our own generators. Um, we're fairly comfortable. We're not out there under a grass hut. We're protected from the elements. I believe I don't think I could have or even would have stayed in Haiti without some sort of home security, some place to go and feel at peace and just to go and recharge my batteries, rest. So we have a nice place, but we still get out in the boonies now and then, and I'm not afraid to go sleep in a grass hut back in the mountains if that's where we're going this weekend or whatever.
So I understand that you actually have a guest house there in which you can house people that want to come down and do ministry there or do work or just come down for a few days or a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true, Jackson. Great friends of ours from Canada bought a property adjacent to my house. In fact, the door through the wall goes right into their property, and they've invested generously in putting together a nice facility for people to come in and stay. There are people there. These are Hutterite folks, very unique people living in Canada and Midwestern states. They like to come down. They like to bring their groups down. And I manage the property for them so I can host groups when the place is open. And it's nice. It's got a swimming pool, some air conditioned rooms. We have a great kitchen staff there, lots of good food, and we're always welcoming folks to come down and visit in that respect.
I imagine that you have a cadre of American missionaries there at your compound to help you out with these things. Do you have a bunch of American missionaries helping?
No, we don't, Jackson. We used to do that years ago. We used to have a small army of American missionaries down there, but we went through some serious times after the first dictator fell, and I realized at that time how dependent the programs of that ministry were on North Americans. And I started even back then, back in 1986, turning my focus on to how can we be most effective when when how can we be most effective, and I decided the best way we could would be by turning over the reins to the Haitians and being as least intrusive as possible. So basically, our vision isn't to have an army of North Americans down there. Our vision is to have an army of Haitian people who we're empowering, who are trustworthy, and who are going out and doing the work. After all, it's their country, their language, their people, their vision. We're just helping them. And I think that that's the way it should be.
Some who haven't been there have thought that an American missionary down there actually lives far better than up here because they actually have slaves. What I'm saying is they engage Haitian people to work for them without pay or with very little benefit. Do you pay these people that come to help?
Yes, absolutely. Now there are some people who take advantage of the situation in a country where the daily labor rate is about anywhere between $1.50 and $2 a day. Um, that is definitely a situation that can be taken advantage of. But for me, I don't have servants at my house. I don't have employees who cook and clean and do all that. We do all that ourselves in our home. We have people who work in the guest house, cooks and guard people. I like to pay the people a fair wage, more than minimum wage. And I believe somebody who's taking care of us, cooking our food and looking after our homes, they deserve to be compensated accordingly. Now, we don't pay them like somebody would get paid here, but they're certainly happy with what they're receiving. It's a very fine line to try to take care of somebody as an employee and not get too far outside of the government standards, what the government requires you pay people. We try to be over that and make life a little bit better. But if you have to be careful with that too, because sometimes if you set a precedent, you'll have trouble on your hands when it comes to dealing with other people looking down on you for doing that.
Well, the things that we enjoy here, like having electricity, etc., or utilities that we can pay for and that are delivered to us, I imagine that the power out in the rural villages maybe doesn't even exist. I mean, how can you put electric sockets in a grass hut um, if they have no electricity out there? How do they live?
Well, most rural Haitians do not have electricity. The electricity is um, basically for the big cities. How do they live? They
Yeah.
live like they lived 50 years ago with kerosene lanterns and candles. Some people now have solar panels, and some people have small generators, but for the most part, in rural areas, you don't see all the streets lit up and houses lit up. You go through a rural area at night and you'll see lights here and you'll see lights there. But what will happen is most of the people who are awake and out and about, they'll be gathering around where the lights are, and everywhere else is dark.
So how do you maintain for your guests and visitors there electricity? Obviously, they're not going to be in this hot, hot place with no electricity, no air conditioning. They're just not used to that. What do you do about that?
We have generators on our compounds, two generators for when we're there in a skeleton crew. We run a small generator. When we're there full house, we run a larger generator. So that's not an issue with us. We've had uh, power in our house out there almost 35 years now. We live very close to a large hotel, and they used to provide power for us, but we went off their grid about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and put in our own generating systems. Now we're starting to shift that to solar, and hopefully by the end of this year, I'd like to see all of our properties there under solar panels to where we're spending just nickels on the dollar that we have spent on fuel for generators.
Well, generally, what would a day be like for a visitor coming to the compound and staying there? Maybe a vacationer or a part-time missionary or somebody that was just interested in coming, seeing the sights, or getting out into the villages and doing some hands-on prayer and so forth. What's a day like for a person like that?
Well, it can be just about anything. We have hosted folks over in Haiti for so many years now. You know, I've learned that everybody's different and everybody has their gifts and talents and desires and vision. Um, so generally, I try to greet people and come to know them a little bit, and then try to customize an adventure for them for the week. I like to start out with, especially with people who've never been to Haiti, I like to start out with immersion into culture, museums, and things like that, just to get them a solid history, a solid history lesson on Haiti, and take it from there. And basically, immersion is what I like to help do. Immersion based on, you know, personal interest and adventure. And we'll go into villages. We can go do ministry in villages, visit resorts. We can go to see the four coasts. We can do anything we want to do.
Okay, so what do visitors eat there? I mean, you're going to have one meal a day of breadfruit or something like that. Which is the is the immersion such that it would be uncomfortable for a person that's never been there before?
That's a good question. And I realize that North Americans coming down to Haiti are accustomed to a certain standard of living, certain standard of eating. And so on our compound, our guest house, I try to match that standard, air-conditioned rooms, 2 to 3 meals a day, good, full, solid meals, good breakfast, good dinner. Then lunch is always, depends on where we're going to be. Maybe we'll eat lunch in one of our schools where we're cooking lunch for the kids. That's always an adventure. But I've never heard anybody complain that their standard of living was threatened while they were in Haiti. In fact, most of them will say, Phil, I thought I was going to lose weight while I was down here, not gain it.
I understand that there's a beach compound down there named after one of our presidents. Is that the case?
Yes. Obama Beach Hotel. Right down the street from us. In fact, where our compound is located, we're on what's called the Treasure Coast. The compound itself is only 300-400 yards off of the ocean, and we're surrounded by some of the most fabulous beaches, beach clubs in Haiti.
And is the beach pretty close by, or do you have to go a ways to enjoy that?
There's beaches all over. You can go down the road, you can go straight out the house, you can go off to the right. There's beachfront everywhere.
How about souvenirs?
Oh yes, souvenirs. You won't have any problem finding souvenirs. Haiti is the barter capital of the world. Come down, and when you go out to visit some of these resorts or the museums or just about anywhere you go, there will be opportunities to buy souvenirs. Help the Haitian economy by buying artifacts or artwork or jewelry or you name it, they've got it. And it's so much fun. It's almost sport bartering for these things. And the people are so friendly as they try to sell it to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, in 2010, I might have this wrong. There was a terrible series of hurricanes there that we heard a lot about at the time, and there was by a couple of presidents um a nonprofit kind of pay into this and will help the people of Haiti. Now, I'm wondering, since quite a few Americans were actually killed in the hurricanes, was there an earthquake there too?
In 2010, it was the earthquake.
Okay. What's recovery like now, 8 years later? Everything back up and running?
Recovery is, it has been pretty good as far as having removed most of the rubble, having gotten most of the people back into permanent dwellings, not the best dwellings, but you have to realize somewhere around 230,000 people perished in that earthquake. Over a million people were left homeless
Wow.
in tent cities all around Port-au-Prince. So the level of disaster and chaos there was unimaginable. And today you can still go through the city and find buildings that haven't been cleaned up or totally taken down and hauled out. But for the most part, I would say we have had about a 75% recovery from it. Most people would agree that we don't feel it's been as much of a recovery as we should have had for all of the monies that we heard were raised, the billions of dollars for Haiti. We all wonder where that went. And we just don't see that in the recovery, but we see a very slow recovery process. It is taking place. And there has been some good changes that have come through putting Haiti on the map after that earthquake.
The capital city's Port-au-Prince. I imagine that there's at least 1 million people there, right?
At least, probably 1.5.
And some of the worst slums in this side of the world. Is it advantageous for you to be out in the country rather than in the city? And how far away is your compound from Port-au-Prince?
Is it advantageous for me to be out in the country? Well, it's not about being advantageous. It's about what I've chosen. I've chosen to work out with the rural people. Most of my life in Haiti has been spent among the rural people. If I wanted a city ministry, I would live in the city, but I live out in the heart of what I call our footprint, where we work in the West and the Northwest. And as such, it would not be advantageous for me to be living in Port-au-Prince, which is probably 60 miles away from where I live right now. So
just a couple more questions and then I'll let you go. It is said that Haiti is 90% Roman Catholic, but 100% voodoo. How prevalent is voodoo in these rural places? And when you're able to go in and evangelize to some extent, you see results in the power of the Holy Spirit to confront powers like that?
that's a good question. When I went to Haiti, my first year, 1979, so 1979 in the early 80s, this thing they call voodoo was very, very, very prevalent. You could not go anywhere and not see it openly practiced. Temples here and there, temples dotting the roadsides going out into the countries, temples in the mountains, wherever you went, voodoo drums at night, voodoo ceremonies in the hotels, voodoo ceremonies in people's yards. It was everywhere. It was so thick you could cut it with a knife. These days, though, it seems like that spirit has been broken. Most of the voodoo has shrunken down and is located in deep rural areas. You don't see it so much along the roads anymore. You see old temples and this and that here and there that are still strong and on the mainstream, but not like you used to. You don't even see 90% of what you used to. You don't ever hear the drums at night anymore.
Wow.
You never see a real voodoo ceremony going on in public unless you know where it's at and you're looking for it. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, this is one of our founding desires was to see the gospel penetrating and actually touching the hearts of the people. In our early days, it was almost non-existent to see repentance and any type of work of the Holy Spirit. And this was always something we struggled with. But a particular season came to an end, and that would have been when the last dictator was kicked out in 1986. And the following 6 years, there was a season there where we feel that maybe a curse was lifted, or maybe that was when Father turned back around his face on Haiti. But something changed then and there, and we started to see repentance coming back into the churches. We started to see people burning their voodoo fetishes and this and that. And ever since then, we see a rise in Christianity, and we see a descending of the voodoo practices overtly practiced everywhere.
What can we do now to help you out? What is it that you need that we can, as common folks here in America, can do to help alleviate your obstacles to fulfilling your mission?
I think the first thing anybody could do to actually help me and the ministry and the vision is types of gifts of encouragement, be that an email of encouragement, or a phone call, or a letter, a note, and especially prayer. I tell you, sometimes it gets really lonely and tough working out on the front lines in a third world country, and you always sometimes stop and wonder when pressure's on its strongest. You wonder, who's even thinking anymore? Who's thinking about us anymore? Who's praying for us? So that is probably the greatest strength we can get from the North American community, is just knowing there are people there praying, encouraging. Another thing is, if you're open to it, invite us in to speak, share our vision, and just have a meal with you. I mean, when we come back to the States, we're pretty busy in our touring and visiting churches to speak on behalf of the vision. And it's great to have people who take the initiative to invite us, rather than us taking the initiative to and beg if we can come in. That is a huge encouragement. And of course, there's always financial support. That's something that's just a given in ministries. It never ends. And financial gifts to help feed the children, pay the teachers, do the programs. We wouldn't be there if it weren't for that. So those are the top three things, I think.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate taking your time right now. Somehow we find ourselves together here in Michigan. I don't know how that happened. Must have been a coincidence. But this is one of the things that I really wanted to get next time I saw my brother, and as a follow-up to the interviews that he did before, and now we've got it. And one more time, tell us how to contact you.
Our mailing address is Box 331, P.O. Box 331, Utica, Ohio, 43080, and that's Haiti Rural Education Fund Incorporated. And if you want to send me an email, you can send it to glow, GLOW _ USA. Glow, GLOW _ USA. That's glow as in God's love for orphans and widows _ USA at yahoo.com.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And certainly, we hope through this interview you will be blessed.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
So I've known this fellow, Phil Snyder, for 61 years now, and I can vouch for him. So if you're in a position to help with at least an email or a prayer, why don't you let me know? And if you want to get a hold of him personally, you just heard his email address. It's glow, GLOW _ USA at yahoo.com. No telling when the next time we'll run into him is. I don't see him very often at all because we live so far apart, but once in a while, here he comes. I appreciate you listening or watching this video, and certainly you can contact me if you'd like to learn more information. I'm at veroyahad, VEROYAHAD @gmail.com. Again, thank you for listening.